Hello, scaredy cats. Welcome to Jump Scare, the weekly show where I bring you into the frightening world of horror. I'm your host, Sierra Caballero. Ever curious about the strange realm of horror? Wanting to get into it but don't know how? Well, with my steps and a few recommendations, hopefully it will help you find the horror that suits you. First, there is more than one kind of horror. There is an abundance of subgenres under the horror umbrella, which means not all horror is torture and gore. The most well-known genres are slashers and paranormal. However, there are others like body horror, sci-fi and horror, horror comedies, giallo, gothic, splatter, psychological, monster, and even survival horror. These subgenres can meld together or even work on their own to create unique horror storylines. It's up to you which subgenres you enjoy. If you are confused about the difference between each subgenre, let me know in the comments below and I can make a video about it explaining everything. A quick example, however, is Halloween is a slasher while Hostel is a splatter film. In splatter, gore takes precedence over drama or tension, suspense. Slashers don't necessarily focus too much on the kill and focus more on the lead up to the kill, if that makes any sense. Mainstream horror isn't the only horror. There's an unfair assumption that mainstream dictates the entirety of horror for the entire year. Mainstream is only a sliver of the amount of horror films that get released every year. Yes, mainstreams are easier to seek out, promoted more, and are given higher budgets. Just because a film has more resources doesn't mean it's better. Don't single out mainstream films, however. Every film deserves a chance. Support indie horror. Independent horror has become a lot easier to come by since the introduction of Netflix and other online streaming services, even YouTube, making it a lot simpler to discover unique films, all while supporting smaller, upcoming artists. You will be surprised to see the hard work, innovation, and creativeness that goes into independent films. A great way to support horror indies is also to attend horror film festivals. Not only will you discover new horror, but you can also experience Q&As with the directors and the actors and meet so many other talented artists. Discover foreign films. If you are familiar with the early 2000s, you will remember a large influx of American remakes of Asian horror films, including The Eye, The Ring, and even Shudder. Ever curious about the original films? They are definitely worth checking out, as well as many Italian, French, German, and Spanish films. And of course, other regions all around the world. Start off with horror comedies. Many films like Shaun of the Dead and even Evil Dead 2 have the ability to both shock and cause uncontrollable laughter. Horror and comedy are a match made in horror heaven, or hell, whichever one you prefer, I guess. And is a perfect entry into horror. The gore isn't necessarily meant to scare you, maybe gross you out, and it's pretty absurd. The films aren't really meant to terrify you either, so they are perfect for those who scare easily. So I would recommend seeing possibly Abominable Dr. Phibes. It'll make you a Vincent horror fan, and it's also really funny. Read about horror culture. I cannot stress enough the impact that reading about horror culture has made on me. I gained such a huge appreciation and knowledge about how horror reflects our culture and how it's progressed, and so much more. It's fascinating learning the history and the impact that the genre has made. I would definitely recommend The Monster Show by David J. Skal, and Monsters in the Closet by Harry M. Benshoff, and Companion to the Horror Film by various authors. Very good books, definitely check them out. Watch the classics. Nothing can compare to the beauty of classic horror films ranging from the late 1800s, George Méliès's magical films, to even the 1980s. Much like reading about horror history, viewing history will help you garner an appreciation for the genre and see the majesty of the costumes, locations, and storylines. Great films to see would be George Méliès's La Manoir du Diable, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Dr. X, and The Haunting from 1963, guys. Not the remake with Catherine Zeta-Jones. That one's hilarious, though, I will say. And Freaks. Don't forget Bride of Frankenstein or Dracula, of course. Behind the scenes. Now, I know that watching behind the scenes may steal some of the magic away for some people, but watching the hard work and creativity that went into the film that you just watched is fascinating. And I recently watched behind the scenes of Crimson Peak, and seeing the creative decisions behind even just the color palette was so beautiful. It made me love the film more. Well, today's director spotlight is Guillermo del Toro. He is known for his dark fantasy horror films such as Pan's Labyrinth, Devil's Backbone, Crimson Peak, Kronos, and Mimic. So check out his films, they are excellent. I hope these tips and recommendations helped you, and let me know in the comments below if these helped you discover horror or even give it a second chance. Let me know what you watched, guys.